Record numbers of pupils were absent from lessons last autumn, with many of them going on family holidays and term time. Figures from the Department for Education show that 64,000 children were absent without permission on an average day in the last autumn term. Nearly 27,000 pupils were classed as persistent absentees.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Jones, and the law that I'll discuss today is the Education Pupils Registration Regulations Act of 2006. And we'll also talk about the policy that enforces it, which is the Education Act Section 74441 of that Act. The law was introduced to tackle poor attendance and late in British schools. These are reasons due to either parents taking their children away in term time, or their parents just not sending their kids to school, or other reasons could have been that the students who are older were deliberately missing school by forms of truancy. Please look at the graphs that I have prepared for today as evidence. On graph 1, from 1996 to 2008, you can see an increased rise in all absences across all schools, but more particularly in secondary schools. On this graph from 2006 to 18, you can see a decline when the law was imposed more, but another rise in 2017 to 18, which still shows there is an issue with attendance. According to the law, Education MP Nick Gibbs stated in his report that he was giving the power back to the headmaster of the schools, so the headmaster could either impose sanctions like an education contract, fines, or liaise with the education welfare officers to impose further penalty notices and court actions that could lead into prosecutions. Okay, right now I'm going to be talking about the pros and the cons of having a law like this in effect. According to a survey, the school's absence between 2009 and 2010 fell from 6.4 to 2.4%. According to headmistress Nicola Wells, parents were more inclined to listen to the school and adhere by the policy when this law started being imposed again, because they were in fear that schools would liaise with education officers and impose those fines and proceedings. So parents were more in the know about adhering to that policy. According to Pattern 2014, teachers often commented on after the law started being imposed that their workload felt considerably less and they were less anxious about Ofsted rating the schools inadequate due to parents helping getting their kids to school on time. So therefore you could see improvements why this law was in effect to help with the schools, the education, the government and the children's education. Lastly, obviously there was less gaps in education, less gaps in inequalities of learning, and children were learning much more and much better by not being off school. However, there are always cons with these things like laws. Most parents felt like they were often feuding with education welfare officers, and the education welfare officers were looking for more punitive measures instead of support. Other issues arose when some of the teenagers were not bothered about getting their parents into trouble. They would not care about going to school, and it seemed very, very unfair on the parents who would be later capped with a fine or with going to jail. Other issues was a case study about an autistic teenager and children with mental health problems, where they were scared of one thing or another and they did not want to attend school or refused to. But it seemed like the education welfare did not really support the parents in this, and most parents were either deemed a bad parent or they were told like the fine would stick or the court action would go ahead. Now please look at the pie chart about reasons why kids are most likely to be absent from school, and please look at the other charts to show how absences can affect learning. This pie chart shows the reasons that are most likely to cause children to be absent from school. Unfortunately, this chart shows the more number of days missed, the worse performance from the child. In conclusion, the law seems to help teachers and help the government and also help the education system and the learning gaps. It tends to help improve children attending school and parents' attitudes to sending their kids to school. However, according to a lot of my research, attendance seems to be a constant issue amongst these areas. And in my professional opinion, it still seems like there's a lot of grey areas when this law is being applied. It also still remains to be a constant issue amongst UK schools. Thank you very much for listening to my video.